the end of the world in slow motion. What would happen if the Earth stopped spinning today? Imagine waking up and discovering that the sun hasn't risen. The wind is ripping buildings apart as if they were made of paper, and the oceans have turned into city-devouring monsters. It sounds like a scene from a movie, but what if this were real? What would happen if, in the blink of an eye, the Earth stopped spinning, but the atmosphere continued its movement as if nothing had happened? The answer is simple. The chaos would be so swift and brutal that almost no one would survive to tell the tale. But wait, before you close this video thinking it's fiction, subscribe to the channel and discover why this apocalyptic scenario is more realistic than you think. The first minute, winds faster than sound. At the equator, the Earth's surface rotates at approximately 1,670 kilometers per hour. If the planet were to slow down suddenly, but the air maintained its speed, the winds would instantly reach supersonic speeds, over 1,700 kilometers per hour. For comparison, a Category 5 hurricane barely reaches 670 kilometers per hour. These winds wouldn't just be strong, they would be murderous. They would sweep away entire cities in minutes, reducing skyscrapers to rubble and launching cars like projectiles. And don't think only the equator would suffer. Anywhere between 42 degrees north and south latitude, where 85% of humanity lives, would face winds capable of ripping the skin off your body. Reinforced structures like military bunkers would even withstand a direct hit, but would be crushed by the debris of everything around them. As they say, it's not the wind that kills, it's what the wind carries. The unlikely survivors. Humanity wouldn't be extinct, but civilization as we know it would end. Those in deep underground shelters like subways or military bases would have a chance. At the South Pole, scientists at Amundsen Scott Station wouldn't even notice. An immediate problem. After all, the Earth's rotation is almost non-existent there. The only clue would be the sun standing still in the sky, freezing time in an eternal day or night. Oceans become weapons of mass destruction. If winds are deadly on land, they would be even worse in the oceans. The sea surface would be atomized, creating a murderous mist of water and salt. Giant waves, larger than tsunamis, would advance over the continent, swallowing coastal cities in a matter of minutes. Global storms would form, with winds heating the water to a boil in some regions, while others would freeze under eternal night. The New World, 6 months of sun, 6 months of darkness. If the Earth were to stop completely, the day-night cycle would disappear. One side of the planet would roast in continuous sunlight for months, while the other would plunge into a freezing winter. The extreme temperatures would make life on the surface nearly impossible. But there is a hope: the moon. Its gravity would gradually begin to pull the Earth toward it, back, accelerating its rotation again, a process that would take millennia, but which one day would bring back the normal cycle. What now? This scenario is hypothetical, but it makes us wonder, what if something like this happened? Would we be able to survive? The truth is, Earth won't stop anytime soon, but understanding these phenomena helps us appreciate the delicate balance that maintains life on the planet. If you enjoyed this dive into the apocalypse, be sure to subscribe to the channel. After all, the universe is full of mysteries, and we're here to decipher them before it's too late. So would you be prepared if the world stopped today? The apocalypse in motion. What else would happen if Earth stood still? Now that we understand the immediate effects of a stopped Earth, supersonic winds, turbulent oceans, and a new cycle of endless days and nights, let's explore the long-term consequences. Because yes, the nightmare wouldn't end in a few hours. It would last for centuries, shaping a new world where survival would be a daily battle.
The end of seasons and the death of agriculture. With the rotation halted, the seasons as we know them would cease to exist. Earth's axial tilt would still create minimal temperature variations, but without rotation, the concept of spring or fall would disappear. The day side would suffer extreme droughts, while the night side would freeze into an icy desert. Global agriculture would collapse. Plants did not evolve to survive 6 months of scorching sun, followed by 6 months of frigid darkness. The few remaining humans would have to adapt to underground greenhouses or constantly migrate between twilight zones, where temperatures would still be tolerable. The poisoned atmosphere. The initial supersonic winds would not only destroy cities, but also catastrophically redistribute pollutants and particulate matter. Soot from global fires, dust from pulverized buildings, and toxic gases from destroyed industries would spread through the atmosphere, creating an effect similar to that of a nuclear winter. Breathing would become a deadly challenge. Even decades after the event, the air would still be laden with fine particles, causing widespread respiratory illnesses. The few survivors would have to rely on advanced filters or live in pressurized domes. Ecosystem collapse. Wildlife would not be immune. Migratory birds, which rely on the day-night cycle for navigation, would collapse. Marine species, accustomed to stable ocean currents, would face mass extinction. Even soil microorganisms, essential for decomposition and fertility, would be drastically affected by abrupt climate change. Ecosystems would enter a domino effect of extinctions. Without pollinators, plants would die. Without plants, herbivores would disappear. And without herbivores, the remaining predators, including humans, would have to fight for scraps of a world that was once abundant. The new geopolitics, the war for habitable zones. With most of the planet inhospitable, the few habitable regions, near the poles or in twilight zones, would become humanity's last refuges. And, as always, humans would fight for them. Nations that once depended on vast, fertile territories would now find themselves reduced to small enclaves. Wars over resources, such as fresh water and arable land, would be inevitable. Whoever controlled the last sources of geothermal or nuclear energy would wield absolute power. The legacy of humanity, ruins and renewal. If any group of survivors managed to adapt, they would inherit a world of ruins. Cities would be buried under sand, ice, or wild vegetation. Modern technology, dependent on global networks, would be useless. Humanity would have to start almost from scratch, perhaps drawing on ancient knowledge of agriculture and construction. But there's a cruel irony in all this. If the Earth stopped today, millennia from now, the moon would slowly spin it again. The winds would die down, the oceans would calm, and perhaps a new civilization would emerge. They would look at the ruins of our cities and wonder, what happened to these people? Could you survive in this still world? If this scenario has made you reflect or tremble with fear, be sure to subscribe to the channel. We explore the limits of science, survival, and the future of humanity. And remember, while the Earth still spins, every day is a chance to prepare for the unknown. Activate the bell and never miss a video.